The dream of Alberta and Saskatchewan breaking free from Canada through a mere referendum vote is a spark in a powder keg, ready to ignite a revolution or be snuffed out by Ottawa's iron grip. It's not just a question of ballots or legalities. This is a battle for the soul of the West, a cry from provinces bled dry by a federation that seems hell-bent on dragging them into ruin. The deck is stacked, the rules are rigged, and the path to independence is a gauntlet of bureaucratic barbed wire. Yet the fire of separatism burns brighter than ever, and for good reason. So let's dive into this with some clarity. So picture this. In 1991, Kosovo, a restive province in the Balkans, holds a referendum where nearly 99% vote for independence, with an 87% turnout. The Serb population boycotted, but the Albanian majority's will was unmistakable. Fast forward to 2008, and Kosovo's parliament declares independence, a unilateral act that Canada, ever eager to champion self-determination abroad, swiftly recognizes alongside the United States and others. How noble, how principled. And yet today, the same Canadian establishment that applauded Kosovo's rebellion, first its referendum, then its declaration, recoils in horror at the mere whisper of Alberta or Saskatchewan seeking a similar path. Hypocrisy, thy name is Ottawa. If Kosovo's overwhelming vote and parliamentary resolve were enough to birth a nation, why is the same standard dismissed when it comes to the Western provinces? The answer lies not in principle, but in power. Ottawa's desperate grip on the wealth and resources of the West. Let's rewind to 1905, when Alberta and Saskatchewan were carved out of the Northwest Territories and thrust into Confederation. This was no grand negotiation, no mutual pact forged in the spirit of unity. It was a dictate from on high, a bureaucratic edict from a federal government that saw the West as little more than a resource colony to fuel the ambitions of Ontario and Quebec. The provinces were given no choice, no voice, just a seat at the table when the menu was already set. Contrast this with the myth of Confederation as a voluntary union of equals. For Alberta and Saskatchewan, it was an annexation by another name, a shotgun wedding that has left a lingering resentment now boiling over. And why wouldn't it? Look at the numbers. Alberta alone contributes billions more to the federal treasury than it receives in return. $27 billion in 2015, according to Stats Canada, a figure that's only grown. Saskatchewan, too, pours its wealth into the equalization black hole, propping up provinces that sneer at the West's values and way of life. Imagine what these provinces could do unshackled. Alberta's oil and gas industry, the envy of the world, could fund a prosperous, self-sufficient nation. Saskatchewan's agricultural might and resource wealth could sustain a thriving economy, and together they could form a powerhouse, free from the suffocating embrace of a federation that prioritizes Toronto's skyscrapers and Montreal's cultural whims over the hard-working people of the provinces, of the prairies. Here's the rub. The Clarity Act, that piece of legal quicksand passed in 2000, stands as a towering obstacle. Designed in the wake of Quebec's near secession back in 1995, the act is less about clarity than about control. It demands a, quote, clear majority, end quote, for separation. A clear majority, a vague threshold left deliberately undefined, a trap set to ensnare any province daring to dream of independence. It requires a constitutional amendment, meaning negotiations not just with Ottawa, but with every other province, many of whom have no incentive to let Alberta or Saskatchewan go. The act doesn't outright ban secession, but it makes it a Herculean task, a labyrinth of bureaucracy and political maneuvering designed to exhaust even the most determined separatist. The Supreme Court, in its infinite wisdom, has washed its hands of any supervisory role, leaving the courts to haggle over what clear actually means, while Ottawa holds the whip. Again, compare this to Kosovo. In 1991, a referendum with near unanimous support set the stage. In 2008, a parliamentary declaration in Kosovo sealed it. No constitutional amendments, no endless negotiations, just a bold assertion of sovereignty. Canada cheered both steps, recognizing Kosovo's independence despite Serbia's protests. Yet, now it clutches the Clarity Act like a shield, ensuring that Alberta and Saskatchewan remain prisoners of Confederation. The message is clear. Self-determination is for others, not for you. And yet, the West's grievances are not abstract. They're rooted in a century of slights. Freight rates that crippled prairie farmers, the national energy program that gutted Alberta's oil industry, and now a federal government under Mark Carney that seems hell-bent on phasing out the very resources that keep this country afloat. Trudeau's ghost looms large. His son's policies echoing the same disdain for the West that fueled separatism in the 1980s. Could Alberta and Saskatchewan go it alone? Absolutely. Their economies are robust, their people resilient, their resources unparalleled. A free Alberta could negotiate trade deals with the United States, its natural partner, where cultural and economic ties run deeper than with Quebec or the Maritimes. Saskatchewan could leverage its agricultural dominance to feed the world, unburdened by Ottawa's red tape. Together, they could form a new nation, or even, as geopolitical analyst Peter Zehan suggests, join the United States as a 51st state, a move that would see Alberta's per capita wealth soar while freeing it from Canada's redistributionist shackles. The math is stark. By 2020, every Albertan was paying $40,000 per taxpayer into a system that gives them little in return. Let's face it, this isn't a partnership, it's plunder. Yet the tragedy is this. Even if 75% of Albertans voted to leave, the Clarity Act ensures they'd be dragged back to the table, forced to beg for freedom from a government that thrives on their subjugation. The polls tell the story. 62% of Albertans believe they get a raw deal from Confederation. 46% feel more loyal to their province than to Canada. And 25% would currently back separation outright. In Saskatchewan, 27% are ready to walk. These are not fringe numbers. They're a cry from the heart of a people betrayed. And yet, the system is designed to crush that cry, to chain the West to a sinking ship captained by Ontario, Quebec, and the Atlantic provinces, who seem content to ride Canada into economic and cultural oblivion. So what is the path forward? A referendum, yes, but not a naive one. It must be a thunderclap, a mandate so overwhelming that Ottawa can't ignore it. Kosovo showed the way in 1991. 99% of voters, with 87% turnout, demanded independence. In 2008, their parliament acted decisively, and Canada endorsed it. Alberta and Saskatchewan must rally their people, not just the separatists, but the silent majority who feel the weight of Ottawa's boot. The Republican Party of Alberta, with its call for a binding referendum, is onto something, but it needs a movement, not just a moment. And Ottawa must be put on notice. The West will not go quietly into the night, forever yoked to a failed state. This is the stakes, folks. Alberta and Saskatchewan stand at a crossroads. Freedom or servitude. Prosperity or decline. The Clarity Act may be a cage, but cages can be broken. The question is whether the West has the will to do it. I say it does. I say it's time to stop asking for permission and start demanding liberation.